So when the author states min wajibin, from the obligation, meaning essential attributes for Allah, lillahi 20 sifa, are 20 attributes. Fallahu mawjudun, straight away he goes into the attributes. So if you count on your text the attributes, he goes into the text, simple to memorize. Firstly is mawjudun, meaning Allah is mawjud, meaning wujud, the attribute of existence. This attribute is the most contested attribute in our time, with the rise of modern militant atheism. Modern militant atheism, represented by Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, a few of these characters that represent modern day militant atheism, a popularization of atheism, where popular arguments are given to sow doubts in believers. So what happens is, arguments that people may not be familiar with are placed within the public, like the existence of evil, and a few people will fall into doubt regarding their faith because they have no theological background, and this is how they popularize this modern form of atheism. But the first attribute we acknowledge for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wujud. But how do we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists? The simple argument that the ulama mention is the argument from cause and effect, that the universe is an effect of an ultimate cause. The universe is an effect of an ultimate cause. The Bedouin summarized this very simply. So this is a quote which Al-Asma'i mentions, which is mentioned in many books of theology. وَسُئِلَ أَعْرَابِيٌّ, a Bedouin was asked, عَنِ الدَّلِيلِ, for a proof of the existence of a creator. Now, the Bedouin is someone who lives in that time where people who lived in fitra, meaning natural disposition. A bit like people in Malawi. Some people in Malawi, in fact majority of the country, do not have television or internet. So they live with fitra. Their natural disposition is not corrupted. Unlike the majority of the world, even in countries like Egypt and Pakistan, people in the countryside, they watch TV programs all day. They have television in the homes and they watch television all day, but the fitrah, the natural disposition, is corrupted through internet and television. But a Bedouin was asked عن الدليل فقال البعرة تدل على البعير. The dung points out to beasts of burden. البعرة تدل على البعير, meaning when you have dung, you see the remnants of dung. What do you deduce from that? That there was an animal that passed this way. Like if someone has mice in the house, but they never see the mice, what do they see? The remnants of the mice scratching away at some of the wood, or some of the trails of the droppings of the mice. They will know there is a mouse in the house, even though they've not witnessed the mouse. So the Bedouin says, Al-Ba'ratu tadullu ala al-ba'ir. The droppings, the dung, point out to beasts of burden, meaning the trail dung, the dung trail. وَالرَّوْثُ عَلَى الْحَمِيرِ. The rawth is specific to the waist of a donkey. وَالرَّوْثُ عَلَى الْحَمِيرِ. So when he passes the waist of a donkey, he knows a donkey has passed this way. Camels have different type of dung. Cows have cow pat, different type of dung. A donkey will have different type of dung. So he said this points out to those animals. So then he says, وَآثَارُ الْأَقْدَامِ عَلَى الْمَسِيرِ. The remnants of a trail of people walking here points out that there was a group of people walking past in the desert. They leave their footprints. Likewise a caravan. If a caravan passes a certain area, you know from deducing that a caravan has passed by. So what does this Bedouin say? فَالسَّمَاءُ ذَاتِ أَبْرَاجٍ, therefore the sky which contains the zodiac, meaning the stars. وَأَرْضٌ ذَاتُ فِجَاجٍ, the earth that contains valleys. وَبِحَارٌ ذَاتُ أَمْوَاجٍ, and the seas that have waves. أَمَا تَدُلُّ عَلَى الصَّانِعِ الْحَكِيمِ الْقَدِيرِ الْعَلِيمِ, do these things not point out to a creator, a sani'? But look how he describes the creator: Al-Hakim, who is wise; Al-Qadim, eternal; and Al-Alim, all-knowing. Meaning he deduces this from what he observes in the world. Likewise, a person who observes himself, his immune system, his eye, everything, the natural conclusion and the natural disposition of an individual, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us, would make us conclude that there is a creator. This is the simple summary of the proof. But then the objections arise, which is beyond the scope of this short lecture, which I have covered elsewhere. But another example I like giving is if you catch an aeroplane and you travel over an island. When you travel over the island, you find on the island, you observe the island from a bird's eye view. And on the island you see stones piled up in such a way that the stones have the words SOS. SOS. White stones, someone has gathered and placed them in such a way that they have written SOS. You deduce from that that there is human presence on the island. Is this deduction incorrect? The answer is the deduction is correct. Now someone on the plane tells you no, the SOS sign is the result of accumulation of those stones over millions of years, the stones piled up, and it is a coincidence that the words SOS appear on that island. Which of the two conclusions will you take? The first deduction you have made is the natural disposition of any believer that there is a creator. The second objection to that is the objections of the atheists. All the objections that you will ever hear from the atheists will fall into this type of category. When a human concludes from the DNA and from what some have called integrated complexity of the biological makeup, Anthony Flew uses that term, integrated complexity, meaning the complex organisms that are integrated so well. And you conclude that there is a creator who is Al-Hakim, wise, Al-Alim, all-knowing. The objections, when you study the objections and the counter answers from rational theology, from Muslim theologians who are able to answer those objections, you will realize that similitude of the plane flying over the island, the example I have given is the correct example to be given. Another example of the objections is if someone enters into this masjid, he observes the walls have been painted, the walls have been constructed, everything has design. He concludes that this was built, this was made. Someone comes along and they point out to a nail that is hammered into the wall and they say this nail has no function, therefore the entire construct has no function. They conclude from the nail that it has no function, therefore the entire construct has no function. This is an example of the objections of the atheists that they make. If someone studies or reads even popular works on astrophysics, popular works, read the works of Paul Davies and others, popular works on astrophysics, you will conclude that the universe has an originator who has all these divine attributes. So the author states, فَاللَّهُ مَوْجُودٌ قَدِيمٌ. So the second attribute is Qadim, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always existed. If someone says he must have a point of existence where he came into being, the response would be that this would lead to continuous regression. How? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ascribed with a beginning, then this would mean that he has a cause, that someone caused him. And then that cause would also have a cause. And this would lead ad infinitum to no end, a regression of causes, which is rationally impossible. So we must affirm the attribute of Qadim. So the first attribute is Al-Wujud, the second one is Al-Qadim, which the author states as Qadim. Baqin, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists eternally, meaning everything else has a contingent existence. It exists short term but then perishes. So the author states, فَاللَّهُ مَوْجُودٌ قَدِيمٌ بَاقٍ مُخَالِفٌ لِلْخَلْقِ بِالْإِطْلَاقِ مُخَالِفٌ لِلْخَلْقِ, that he bears no resemblance to creation, مُخَالِفٌ, in opposition to khalq, to creation. Bil-itlaq, with no restriction, meaning some people may conclude that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bears some resemblance to creation. The answer is bil-itlaq, with no limitations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no resemblance to creation whatsoever. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. There is nothing like him, yet he is all hearing and all seeing. But he bears no resemblance to creation. The proof for this would be that if he bore resemblance to creation, then he would be like creation, and that would entail that he is contingent. What is the meaning of contingent? Al-wujud ba'd al-adam, existence after non-existence. If we ascribe existence to him after non-existence, this would entail similarity to creation, and therefore he would need a creator. Then that creator would also need a creator, and that creator would also need a creator, and this is rationally impossible.